How's everyone doing today? We have got a really exciting session today. Today is a Tuesday, so that means we are doing a live build in Claude Cowork. And in Claude Cowork, we will be talking about how we can build a agent that helps you find where your gaps are. Um, I think we usually know who our competitors are that we're trying to outrank and get ahead of. But it's often hard to then translate that into like, okay, what are they doing better than what we're doing? And so we're going to go through this today. We're going to talk about how to do this in Claude Code. Again, for our live build sessions, I always really like to explain that, yes, we're going to go start to finish on how to build this agent, but I really want to pay attention to the methodology of how we think about constructing these agents so that you can build your own and add your own specifications of what you guys need to make these the most valuable thing for you. So, what we will do, I'll go through the three steps in a little bit. I just want to wait a couple more minutes to let everyone trickle in. We usually get the most amount of people about 5 minutes after. But as we are waiting for some people, please, please drop in the chat. We like to be very interactive in these live sessions. I really like getting feedback from the audience in real time to answer your questions, right? This is an educational time for you guys. I want to make sure that we are providing as much value as possible. And as you guys have questions or if there's something specific to your needs, feel free to drop them in and I will answer them. So before we dive into the build, I want to just walk through kind of what this looks like. So this AI visibility agent, what it will do is it will run search through your category and looks through all the different LLMs and actually understands who is getting cited, and then giving you reasons why and running this every week. So what this accomplishes is it gives you a live feed or gives you an understanding on a weekly basis as to who's actually ranking for you. This is in a very simple way. This is a very basic way that a lot of these AEO audit tools are actually working behind the scenes. They're just on a daily basis running your search queries to understand, kind of how people are ranking in your market. And so what we can do is have this agent actually run through all this and build out the gap for the report, get a share of voice as a number, source the engines that are actually, or the LLMs that are actually citing you, and getting you this every week. And what this does is it gives us a week over week plan on how we can actually improve our answer over time and actually improve our share of voice. And so we'll run through this. We'll pull up Claude Cowork in a second here, but this is the overview of kind of what we're going to be accomplishing in this. And as we think about all of our workflows, we think of them in three stages. Think about what are the inputs required to actually accomplish what we want to do. In this, we need a prompt set, so a list of questions that people are asking in our category to potentially find our product or service. So this would be your buyer's real questions. Most of them are going to be best category for specific use case. So for us, it would be best agency for AI search or best agency for AI automation, content ops, things like that. Because we want to make sure that when buyers are searching those queries, we are actually ranking and showing up. Now, we also want to run this across, each of the different LLMs. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude are the standard ones. There are obviously additional LLMs out there, but these are the big ones. And what we're going to do is in Claude, unless you have and set up actual your API key for all these other search engines, we are just going to be focusing on Claude, because that is what, obviously Claude Cowork has access to. If you do want to see how you're showing up and ranking on all the other platforms, You can actually see them on our free AI visibility tool. You can just scan this QR code and run it there. But the idea is this gives you a free understanding of kind of where you rank on all of these different LLMs and gives you the same thing. But it is a one off process. So this is about how you can run it on a continuous, self learning loop. And so once we have those inputs, it's going to go into a process step. And so we say, okay, these are the inputs we're giving for the workflow. Then this is what we want the agent to do every time we give those inputs. We want it to run the prompts and record the answers. We want it to tally who's getting named and who's getting cited. We then want it to constrain to saved answers. And then it's going to compare the week over week and track the gap closing. So it actually is doing some evaluation in this process as well. And then what we want as an output, we want to define the output is the gap report, which answers we're missing out on. That way we know what to act on. The share of voice as a number, the sources, and then making sure that this is delivered every week. And then again, this will go back and feed the input for the next session or the next time the agent runs as an input. And so this runs weekly and improves over time. There's a large narrative right now in the AI space talking about agentic loops. And this is exactly what we talk about, where they're recursive. And so the information from the output gets fed into the next input to improve over time. So let's jump into this. I want to just go through a few slides here. So this is what we just went through. Okay. So the pattern for this audit agent is to make sure that we set it up correctly and we run through the process once. So we make sure we can actually build it and define it. And so that every time it runs, we know that it is running and following our instructions. So again, we are going to tell it what buyers are searching for, find where we're missing, and then we can rank the gaps. Again, the outcome here is we know exactly what we need to focus on to improve this over and over again. For those of you who are new or who haven't joined one of my sessions before, my name's Will. I run Catalyst. We focus on AI systems for growth marketing. We've had we've been around for about 3 years and had the opportunity to work with a lot of really incredible clients, ranging from seed, Series A stage companies. We work primarily with Series C and very much in the growth stage. And then we've gotten to work with a lot of bigger companies. And what we do is we've seen a lot of different problems across the board, and we try to instill these best practices and educate you guys on a weekly basis to make sure that we can be, sharing these learnings as we get through this space, which is moving so fast. And yeah, so we'll go through and actually build this agent live now. Again, if you want to get the full audit and go a little bit deeper, scan the QR code or go to gotcatalyst.com/AEO audit, and you can run the system for yourself. But let me pull up Claude. And like I said before, um, feel free to drop in any questions you guys have or anything that you think is relevant to you. And I will be sure to answer them in real time alongside Charles, who's in our chat, who is going to be helping out. So we are now in a Claude Cowork session. You know that because you maybe started in chat and we toggled it over to Cowork. The difference with Claude Cowork is that it allows us to create and write files to our local machine, which allows us to just have a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more, you know, engineering work that is able to be done because it can actually write files. And so the first thing we want to do is load in a project folder. So this is going to, I'm going to direct this to a specific folder. This folder that we created for this session will be available to you guys so you can use it for your own starting point. But again, this is nothing more than what you guys could create on your own. Let me go through. Sorry, just a little out of whack here. Workshop sessions. Today is August 4th. There you go. So you will get this starter project file. And I just want to open this up. And so when you download this for yourself, we can go in and say what is available in the starter project. And this will show us the specific instructions on how we want to work through this. The nice thing about Claude Cowork is it pulls in the context here and actually gives you what we need to do. So what we can see is the build order that we're going to be running through is finding the 5 buyer prompts, run and record the actual answers, extract them, find where we need to make improvements in the constraint so we can improve it, and then put it on a loop so it runs weekly without us touching it. This is what makes things fully agentic, is having them run autonomously. So let's start by running through the actual queries that we want to. Does anyone have a company that they work for that they want to use as a live demonstration here? This will make it very easy when we share this project because it will be already built for you. But instead of just doing it for Catalyst, we can do it for a real company, someone in the audience. If not, we can go through it. Okay. Well, I'm not getting any Ooh, okay, cool. Do it for G space dental offices. Dental office is interesting. Sorry, I'm just gonna do a little bit of anyone want to share a specific URL? We can do it for either G space or dental offices. I think there's something interesting about local. Cool. Let's run it for okay. Let's see. Okay, cool. Let's run it for dental and have it build this. And so what we're essentially doing is defining who the category is, and then it's going to go and find what queries are searching for. Because we know what most people search, about best of and alternatives to make up about 70% of all AI search queries. So we know that this is something that we want to be focusing on. So once we have it, extract the queries. And so it'll actually define this list. And where we see most people fail is they are only searching 1 or 2 queries, right? So maybe you pulled up Claude or you pulled up Gemini and you made a specific search. So maybe just said like best dental implant providers in Memphis, Tennessee. And what happens is maybe you see yourself, maybe you don't, but you only run this search once. And the thing about AI versus Google search is it is a lot less deterministic, which just means that it is inconsistent, right? You could search something on your end, I could search something on my end, and we do it an hour later and get completely different results. And so what we want to do is build this system to search multiple times across different searches to get an aggregate. That's why it's really important that we're running this often. So now we'll move it to step 2. So now we're going to run these through the prompts and actually run them through. And we'll get, you know, uh, we're going to get what the actual answers are. So you can see because we want to, uh, that little pop up was just saying, if you want to actually search those other platforms like Gemini and Perplexity, you need to either connect to those specific APIs or use a tool like our AEO audit tool, which connects to those APIs automatically for you. And so I just corrected it and I said, hey, let's just focus on Claude for now because it obviously has native integration there. And so what it's doing is it's going and it's going to search this multiple times. These are the queries that your buyer actually is looking for or is actually searching. And so then it's going to go and run that audit. But just getting a response or a summary of, right? So just seeing what this actual output is helpful, but there's not much to action on. And so what we want to do is get it to actually extract and tally and build this, scorecard for us to understand what we can do to improve on it. So that's why the next step of the process is to actually go and build this extraction layer. So it looks like out of the 5 searches, we're showing up in one of the 5 answers. Nice job, Drew. Looks like you're getting Memphis providers. You guys are showing up in the first position. However, when we search a little bit broader, we're not showing up. This is obviously just a small, sample size, 1 of 5. But this is why we do it over and over again on an aggregate. You could run this every day if you want to understand kind of how things are improving and ranking. The nice thing about AEO versus SEO is you can get much faster feedback loops. So we can make implementations and changes today and start to see see things evolving and improving over time. So let me see. Let's go to step 4. Okay, so you can see it's doing some self evaluation here. So what it found is it's self critiquing. This is something that's very important to do when you're building AI agents, is asking it to fix its own constraints. So what it did is it showed us, it's showing pattern matching and false confidence. And what we wanted to do is actually give us a more accurate representation. And so what it's doing is it's now going through and giving us a output of what is actually showing up for us. So show me the final output. So we can see what we will receive when this agent runs every day or every week. Now, as an example, I want to run through and show what this would look like with a more comprehensive. Here we go. Good. So essentially, what we get is a AEO gap report shown by measuring 5 queries on Claude. That is technically 20% share of voice and this one small sample size. But again, the idea is to run this daily to get a better holistic, view. And so when we run this the next time, it's going to see on how performance has shifted over day or week over week. So we're seeing what the search query was, what the status is, what position we're in, what the context around it is, what the source was, and then what competitors are appearing in the same answer. And it's doing here the competitive position. These are, any kind of like risks or things that need to be flagged to the human, what this means, and next steps. So what we're going to do is now say we want to make this a recurring skill that runs automatically daily and feeds the previous reports in as a new input. So just running here and just making sure that we are aligned on what we're trying to build. Okay, so it needs just answer some of its questions. Run in Claude Cowork, single category. To report lands in Claude. This is an opportunity to connect to Slack, and you can actually have an email or Slack yourself the report daily. Show changes every morning at 8 a.m. Yes. As Claude skills are getting smarter and smarter, they are asking clarifying questions to help you improve what you're actually trying to accomplish and get to what the root of it is. Any questions so far from people in the audience? Anything I can do to explain or something specific that you're trying to understand about what you're looking to build? Okay, awesome. So now this is built and we go into scheduled. We can see that it has been built into our scheduled tasks. And what we're going to do is actually run this to see how it performs. It looks like we have a question on the use of haiku for this session and just general. I can talk about how I determine which model I'm using on Claude. Now, we just set it up as a cloud instead of running it on the computer. That was my bad. So, haiku is good for most things. I usually use Sonnet or haiku. The reason that we decided to use haiku for this session is we already have the session file. And so it knows exactly kind of what the steps are to run through. And so it's not doing any critical thinking or not doing any strategic decision making. That has already been predefined by this starter file that we're creating. We've already created. If we are doing something that requires a little bit more thinking, I would move to Sonnet. But what I usually is plan and build a strategy with some of the more expensive models like Fable or Opus, and then do execution with the, more basic Sonnet or Haiku. Sonnet usually is my go-to for day-to-day tasks. So make this a local routine instead. Yeah, Sylvia. So the question is, can you show us what it means to add ChatGPT as well? So the way that we would do this with ChatGPT as well is you would need an API key for ChatGPT, which if you don't have, you can just go to developer docs for OpenAI and grab a OpenAI API key. And then you can just say, hey, we have this now, paste it in here. And then you could ask it to add it as well. The next thing is just using our AEO tool, our audit tool that has all of the LLMs built in. You can see what that will show when we run it here. So we ran it. We just ask you to drop in your email, which helps us understand. But you could see this gives us a much comprehensive view of how you're showing up on ChatGPT versus Claude versus Gemini, Google. You can actually see what the search queries are that you're ranking for and what you're not and what the gaps are. And then we get actually more specific of how to fix it from a technical, whether it's your own content on your website or content on what other websites. And so this gives you a much better understanding. You can run this each week with our tool here to show you how you're, actually building and growing over time. Looks like we have a question from Vic on AEO as a topic and how to build an understanding on the subject. So the general overview of what AEO is how your website or your company is showing up in LLMs. So when you go to Claude or OpenAI or Perplexity and you type in, what is the best agency for, content operations or for growth marketing, how do you get Catalyst to show up there or whatever your business is? If you're looking for, um, you know, dental implants, how do you get your company to show up? And so the three things that we always focus on for all of our AEO clients is technical, on-site content, and off-site content. Technical is really just showing whether AI crawlers can actually read the information on your website and can they get through all of the pages. Also, are you setting up content in a way to be read by AI agents? On-site content is, are you publishing content that AI actually wants to then display to customers in the future? Is it valuable? Is it unique? Is it original? All of these kind of quality scores that help us understand how your on-site content is doing. We always say we want it to be quotable. And then off-site content. So what are other people talking about you? What is when you look holistically about what your website, your socials, what review sites, what other people are talking about, how is that showing up or impacting your company as well? And so you need all three things to be solved to get an overall higher score and to be showing up and ranking higher. And so we kind of move through the process in those three steps. If you run this audit for yourself, we give you actually specific recommendations as well as a custom 90-day plan. And you can see that the first thing that we focus on always is foundation, which means fixing your technical setup. If AI can't read you or can't read your website, then nothing else matters. So we want to first talk about first understand how we can build that foundation to be much stronger to get you ranking higher. Then we want to look at your own content strategy and what original inputs you have, and then adding, structure and schema like FAQs. We also need a baseline, right? We don't know how we can track performance unless we have something to go off of. And that's why this kind of this general overview is crucial for understanding where we are today to see how we're tracking week over week and month over month. From there, we build out the content strategy and start getting you referenced in offsite placements. There is a disproportionate amount of value the LLMs see for offsite placement. And so we really want to be able to lean into that to make sure that we're getting you in those lists that competitors are on. You can see actually here in offsite content, we show you where, who is talking about these things and, where you're actually showing up on those. I think it's in recommendations. There you go. We also give you the content articles that you should create. And so, this is essentially the first, first 30 days of content that we would create for you, which separate into three categories. So comparison articles, best of plays, and then answering the specific question that your buyers are searching. So this is definitely our recommendation on how to see what every model is saying, and allows you to not have to worry about API keys or all those things because it gets a little complicated and technical at a certain point. Awesome. Well, this skill will be sent to everyone after today's session. It is a great foundation for starting to understand how AI is how you're showing up in AI and how AI is ranking your brand. And then I definitely recommend people doing their own scan and understanding a little bit more in depth on how they are showing up and how we would solve it. If there's anything people have specific questions on, I'm happy to do a little Q&A at the end here. If not, we do live working sessions twice a week. They usually run about 30 to 45 minutes where we cover one specific, task or agent build. Tuesdays are usually more live build sessions like we were in Claude Cowork, where we try to teach principles. And then Thursdays are more about kind of philosophy and talking through how we think about building agents and actually building, systems around what we're working on. I hope to see you guys in future sessions. If there's anything specific you guys want me to answer, and we can do a session on that in the future. If not, thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.